What up team, it's Dane. So the first video on how to lose fat, basically the fat loss guide that you need to follow for fat loss all in one place. So number one is protein and calories. So in order to lose fat, like you might know that I say a lot of my videos, is you need to be in a calorie deficit. There is no other way of losing fat. So to do this, like I always say, do 15 times your body weight in pounds if you're a male, and do 14 times your body weight in pounds if you're a female. Now that will give you how many calories you require per day to maintain your weight. Now to lose fat, minus 250 to about 500. This will be a 10 to 20% calorie deficit, which will give a good amount of fat loss. Now individuals that have a lot of fat to lose, like excessive fat, maybe obese, quite an overweight individual scale, you could start off with a larger calorie deficit to start off with. So remember, maybe do 15 times your body weight in pounds, again according to a male. Now when you get this number, minus 1000. However, it's really important that you do not do this all the time. It's just to start off with, otherwise it does not become sustainable. Now in accordance to this, when your calorie deficit is large, you also require a larger protein intake, like I always say. The reason because of this is because less calories means less resting muscle protein synthesis rates, which does also increase the likelihood of losing muscle mass, which we don't want. So increase protein intake as well, the bigger your calorie deficit goes. Now when it comes to determining how many calories you require per day, there are 4 factors that are affected, which becomes your metabolism. When people talk about metabolism, a lot of people just think of the basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories your body is burning for organ function, etc. However, there's another 3 factors. The other 3 factors being thermic effect of food, so how many calories being burned digesting food. The other one is thermic effect of activity, so how many calories are being burned during physical exercise. And the last one, probably the one that not a lot of people talk about and it's very underrated, is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is also called NEAT. This is how many calories are being burned through fidgeting and non-conscious movement, something that we cannot control, and I will talk more about this in another episode. Now the more fat you lose, the more these factors get affected, and the reason being is because of this. If you think about it, your basal metabolic rate, so your BMR for organ function, this also requires muscle. Muscle requires energy, so remember, that goes down. Now, number 2, thermic effect of food. You're eating less food, less calories are being burned there. Number 3, thermic effect of activity. You're probably moving a bit less, and that also moves into NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which again I'll get into later. When you literally lose fat, your body becomes sluggish and it doesn't really want to go through a strong starvation mode, because let's face it, fat loss is basically that. And lastly, the protein intake. Now to set your protein intake, I'd recommend somewhere between 0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And like I said at the start of the video, when you're determining your protein intake, the larger calorie deficit, the larger protein intake should roughly be. Now don't really worry about tracking your macros, carbohydrates and fats, because like most studies and like a lot of research has shown, is that when calories and protein are matched, the fat loss is no different when it comes to carbs and fats. Okay, so that's protein and calories. Click here on the screen to watch the next episode, which is which diet you should be following for your best fat loss.